One of the things that drove me crazy in my just being in this world as a musician of color, playing the music that I do, is this idea of the European fiddle meets the African banjo. That drives me nuts. It absolutely drives me nuts because what happens is that people take these symbols and they simplify. They simplify, simplify, simplify. And because we're allergic to complexity now. It's just like our attention spans are this long and people just want an easy story. And so an easy story is the Irish or Scotch Irish came with their fiddles, met the Africans with their banjos, and the music was born. And it's just total BS. It's not how it happened. Not to say that the Scotch Irish or the Gaelic speakers, the Southern Irish, whatever, not to say that they didn't have loads to do with American music, and the same with Africans, but the story is actually much more interesting than that. And so what drives me crazy is when the fiddle is taken as a symbol of mountain music or white music, and it's kind of like, they had fiddles in Africa too. They had stringed instruments in Europe too. They had like lutes and things in the Western Europe. I mean, it's like nobody has a monopoly on these ideas. This idea of a piece of wood with strings on it. Nobody's got a monopoly on that. And also the idea of these sort of ancient Celtic melodies coming over on the fiddle, and it's like there was sort of this pan-European thing that was happening, and it was everywhere, and it was like, it's just simplification that kind of drives me crazy. The truth is always more complicated than the story that we tell, and it's always more interesting to me. The idea of blacks being enslaved migrants, which is my new favorite term instead of slaves, enslaved, enforced migrants, learning the fiddle, there's like quotes about blacks who knew like Scotch airs and whatever the owners knew, they had to play for these folks. They have to play for the dances. And so having their own tunes and then learning the European tunes and then having to play for the dances, and then that first idea of the fiddle and the banjo meeting together. And then who knows, like the poor whites they were interacting with and the tunes that were being exchanged. I mean, it's fascinating. It's a fascinating idea of this sort of melange of music that came out of really terrible system of economic torture. But then it happened. What I don't want is the music to be simplified to that history to be simplified in that way, so that it takes all the power away from what actually happened.
What I'm trying to explore, yeah, it does make sense in a lot of ways. But I'm also very interested in trying to understand when the violin has been used and its very use has a political impact.
I mean, what's interesting is that it was such an important, it was always mentioned in runaway posters. Plays the fiddle, It was even more prestigious than the banjo. And so it's such a hugely important skill, because if you could play the fiddle, you could get out of you could get out of some work because you were valued for the entertainment. That was it, no TVs or whatever. And so it used to be such an important, like the fiddle, banjo music used to be such an important part of Black culture. And it's just been so wholesale forgotten. It's kind of staggering to think it used to have such an integral part to play and is now so forgotten that it is considered white music. You ask an average African American and they're just like, oh yeah, that's white music. And if you said where it comes from, they would be surprised. I mean, but that's to everybody. That's not just Black culture. I mean, everybody thinks that. But it's just, I really hesitate the word political. I'm not really a big fan of it, because politics to me is a broken, horrible system that's not really serving the needs of the people. For me, those kind of acts are acts of humanism. They're acts of justice, like to play music, to fight. For me, like you play live music, you're fighting the sort of consumerist capitalism or whatever, where it means you're supposed to consume, you're not supposed to make, you're supposed to consume somebody else's creativity because you're a widget maker and you don't get to make music anymore. And that really irritates me too, because it's like, it used to be everybody could play a song, everybody could sing a tune. You still see it in Ireland, in the older generation, they have a bit of a sing song, and everybody has a song that they sing. And it is the most magical thing. And half the stuff is not even like trad. It's like something off the radio from 75 or from 83, and it's like they sing it a cappella, and it's like marvelous. And we've really lost that sense over here. It's like we watch American Idol rather than singing a song. It's like, oh, I could never sing. You know, it's like everybody used to could sing. You got a voice, you can sing. You got fingers, you can play an instrument. Maybe you'll never be that great, but who cares? You're getting the joy out of making music, which used to be such a human trait and now is just so lost. I mean, just the idea of like singing a song all together, people freak out. You hear Happy Birthday being done horribly, like all over the place, because people are so self-conscious about it, and their voices are so rusty. And it's just like, I think that music is such a great way to fight that consumerism.